Hi everyone, thanks for watching my video. I didn't know I was going to share these videos on YouTube, so this is why it's not a step-by-step tutorial, but I'll try and explain everything in detail as we go along. This is my first ever diorama that I've built. I've built plastic models in the past, but someone else did the thinking there for you. All you needed to do was to stick the parts together with glue and use your paint skills to make a decent model. If you think this diorama is worth it, please give it a thumbs up because it motivates us as hobbyists enormously to create new content and share it with you as viewers so that you can learn from our skills. I jumped right into the deep end by trying to build this diorama with a cave-like structure and with an overhang. It's about 45 centimeters from front to back, and it was difficult to reach the back part of it. I had to improvise and decided to build two separate dioramas at the same time. The areas indicated here are the rocks that I sculpted by hand. These are the areas that I painted several layers of thinned down plaster of Paris over the polystyrene, and these rocks were cast in molds that I made from silicone and cornstarch. Sculpting these rocks by hand took up most of my time building this diorama, and I think it would be a much better idea next time to use the molds that I make from silicone and cornstarch to stick those rocks onto the surfaces. I started painting these rocks with a grey acrylic wash technique, but make sure before you start with the wash that you wet those plaster areas with a spray bottle so that the plaster doesn't suck up all the paint immediately. Follow up with a black wash in the recessed areas. Use your different shades of brown to simulate water dripping over the rocks. Use a clean brush with clean water and brush it over the browns so that it blends into the greys and creates a nicer effect. One mistake that I made was placing that little tree in that spot far too early, because I had to bend it back and forth about 100 times to reach at the back. The joining of the two halves had its challenges. Although it would eventually be covered by waterfalls, I still had to get the plaster in there to cover the holes, and I used floral foam to put moss all over the area to hide those colors that didn't match. Covering the floor of the pond and the riverbank was much easier. This little bush is found on the farm, and I picked the branches and let it dry in the sun, and afterwards I wrap the branches together and the leaves fall off, and I use it for the acacia trees. It's got a dense foliage and a dense canopy and with very fine leaves. I use 0.6 millimeter thin copper wire to make these wire armatures. I use this rubberized bitumen waterproofer to paint over the wire armatures, and it's very flexible. You can bend it a lot of times and it doesn't even make the finest cracks. Paint sticks very well to it. This is a good example of how these acacia trees look. The process of adding the leaves works like this. You make a very teased out piece of polyfiber that you see on the insert below and stretch it over the wire armatures. Then you spray that polyfiber with spray adhesive. Then you sprinkle a layer of those fine leaves over the polyfiber. If you're not happy with the result, you spray another layer of spray adhesive over those leaves that you sprinkled on before, and sprinkle another layer of leaves over those. This is ground up floral foam that I put on the rocks all around the waterfall to simulate moss. This is just a short clip that I filmed outside to give you a better idea of the colors and tones that I used. I normally make my grass tufts from static grass, but here you can see I added sisal rub for a bit of variance. You can see the examples in the left lower corner, and it works well for me, and it looks like the stems of the seeds that have started dying off. I squeeze long beads of silicone onto a piece of glass, and then I use a toothpick to mix up the glue and pull it in the direction that I want. I use Mod Podge gloss to paint onto the surface of the pond and use my airbrush to blow onto the Mod Podge to create the ripples. The diorama just wouldn't have the same appearance if I didn't put those LEDs underneath that rock. That area is too dark to see anyway, so I think it's a good idea to put these LEDs underneath there. This is what the diorama looks like when you switch off the room lights and switch on the LEDs. It's pleasant to sit and watch what you've done with all your hours, and it gives you a sense of accomplishment. You can use a lot of different LED colors, but using the LEDs makes this diorama a feature in my house that doesn't just sit on the shelf and collects dust. Remember to watch the video at the end. I'll leave a card at the end of this video for a full tutorial on how I use the silicone and cornstarch to make beautiful rocks. I used this simple but effective fly swatter to make a static grass applicator. This is an ordinary blender I use for grinding up the foam. I learned valuable lessons with foam. You can see this foam, if you tear it, it tears in layers. I assume there are different extruding methods for foam. You can see it tears up into flat pieces, longer strands. This foam I use mostly for clump foliage and for bushes and things like that. You can also see the material's got a more uneven shape than the one on the right. This foam is more like the normal sponge you get, and it tears in small bits, even bits, not like layers like the previous one I showed you. And it's got a very even shape like this. I ground these up very fine to create the fine leaves for the tree that I'm going to show you, and I think it's got a very nice effect, and I'll use it much more. This is the same tree, just from the side. I color the foam with normal cheap acrylic paints. I like to use an olive type of green. This foam is not colored. It's got a basic green color, and I can color it afterwards in the tints that I want. Here's just a sneak preview of the project I'm busy with at the moment. I'll soon post it on my channel, and I hope you enjoy it. Thanks again everyone for watching my video. I appreciate it.